The rules were simple, they were absolute. Speak them not, lest you attract unwanted attention. First, whisper your heart's desire, but only once the doors have closed. Second, never press a lit button. Should it already be glowing, avert your eyes, for it signifies a presence already expected. Lastly, the 13th floor is a lie. It does not exist, and yet it is all that does. The air within the elevator crackled with unspoken anticipation. Every creak and groan of the ancient mechanism spoke of a journey beyond the veil of reality. To enter this lift was to step into a legend whispered by the wind, a legend promising untold knowledge and unimaginable consequences. The brass handrail was cold beneath Thistle's touch. He clutched the worn leather strap of his satchel, his knobbly fingers white with apprehension. His heart pounded a frantic rhythm against his ribs, each thump a deafening echo in the silence. This was it, the moment of no return. Taking a deep breath, Thistle whispered, "The lost lore of the ancients," his voice barely audible above the whirring gears. The air shimmered. The single button in the elevator illuminated, bathing the cramped space in a soft, otherworldly glow. Thistle closed his eyes, steeling himself for the journey. He was committed now. There was no turning back. Thistle was a house elf, a small, wizened creature with large, curious eyes that seemed to hold the weight of countless secrets. He belonged to a long line of loyal servants, each one bound by duty and tradition to serve the grand manor they called home. This grand, rambling manor, with its ancient walls and sprawling estate, stood as a testament to the passage of time and the legacy of those who had come before. It was situated on the edge of a forgotten village, a place where the whispers of the past lingered in the air, and the shadows of history danced in the twilight. The house elves, Thistle's kin, were content with their lot, finding solace in the rhythm of their daily chores and the comfort of their familiar surroundings. They embraced their routine with a serene acceptance, their lives a tapestry of duty and devotion woven through the ages. Thistle, however, was different. He yearned for something more. Something beyond the confines of his prescribed existence. He craved knowledge, a hunger that gnawed at his very soul. He devoured every book and scrap of parchment he could find in the manor's dusty library, a sanctuary of forgotten wisdom and ancient tales. The library, dimly lit and filled with the scent of aged paper, became his refuge, a place where he could lose himself in the pages of history and fantasy. He learned of ancient magic, forgotten languages, and worlds beyond human comprehension, each discovery fueling his insatiable curiosity. The more he read, the more he realized how little he knew, and this realization only deepened his desire to uncover the mysteries of the universe. It was within a crumbling volume of elven lore, a book so old it seemed to crumble at his touch, that he discovered the legend of the Whispering Elevator. The Whispering Elevator, a mystical gateway to a place where all knowledge resided, guarded by beings of immense power and wisdom. This gateway, depicted in intricate illustrations, promised access to the secrets of the universe, but it came with a dire warning. The beings that guarded this gateway were of immense power, their eyes filled with the weight of countless secrets and the burden of their eternal vigil. The book spoke of a price to be paid, a sacrifice demanded in return for the knowledge sought. It was a price that few were willing to pay. Thistle pondered this sacrifice, the weight of the decision pressing heavily on his mind, yet the lure of forbidden knowledge proved too strong for his inquisitive spirit. He knew the risks, understood the potential consequences, but his desire for understanding burned brighter than any fear. Thistle's inquisitive mind could not be silenced, and the thought of the Whispering Elevator consumed his every waking moment. He was willing to risk everything, to leave behind the only life he had ever known, for a chance to quench his thirst for understanding. With a determined face and a heart full of resolve, Thistle prepared for his journey, knowing that there was no turning back. He packed a meager bag with a notebook, a quill, and a flickering oil lamp, the tools he would need to document his discoveries. The flickering oil lamp cast long shadows in the dark room, a symbol of the light he sought in the vast unknown. He left no note, no explanation for his sudden disappearance, knowing that his absence would be felt, his duties left undone. The manor, with its undone chores and silent halls, would soon realize the loss of its most curious inhabitant. But the desire for knowledge burned brighter than any loyalty, a flame that could not be extinguished by duty alone. Under the cloak of a moonless night, Thistle slipped out of the manor, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. His heart ached with a pang of guilt, a reminder of the life he was leaving behind. But this was quickly eclipsed by the thrill of the unknown. The thrill of the unknown, the promise of adventure, and the hope of uncovering the secrets of the universe propelled him forward. He was on a quest, a journey that would take him far beyond the boundaries of his familiar world. With a sense of purpose and a heart full of hope, Thistle set out on his quest for something more significant than himself, a journey that would change his life forever. The elevator shuddered to a halt. The soft glow from the button intensified, casting long, dancing shadows that writhed across the walls. Thistle's breath caught in his throat. The air hung heavy, thick with the weight of untold years and whispered secrets. He stepped out onto a floor, unlike any he had ever seen. The elevator had opened into a seemingly endless library. Towering bookshelves reached for a ceiling lost in shadow. The shelves groaned under the weight of countless volumes, bound in leather, bone, and metals unknown to Thistle. 1,000 scents, old and new, sweet and acrid, assaulted his senses. The air hummed with an almost imperceptible energy, a symphony of whispers in a language he couldn't quite grasp. Thistle felt a tremor run through him, a mixture of awe and trepidation. He had never imagined such a place could exist. He saw no other buttons, no obvious means of ascent or descent. Only the single button, still glowing faintly, remained as a beacon in the echoing silence. It was a lifeline to the world he knew, a promise of return. But for now, he was lost in a labyrinth of knowledge beyond his wildest dreams. His fingers itched to touch the spines of the books, to trace the ancient symbols etched into their covers. He wanted to lose himself in their pages, to drown in the forbidden knowledge they held. He took a hesitant step forward, his hand outstretched. A voice, raspy and ancient, sliced through the silence, echoing off the walls and sending shivers down Thistle's spine. Curiosity, it seems, is not solely a human affliction. It is a trait shared by many, even those who dwell in the shadows. Thistle spun around, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest, each beat a reminder of his vulnerability. A figure materialized from the shadows between the bookshelves, its presence both eerie and commanding. It was tall and gaunt, draped in flowing robes that seemed to shift and shimmer like smoke, as if it were part of the very air itself. Its face was obscured by a deep cowl, the only feature visible, a pair of piercing green eyes that burned with an unnatural intensity, like twin emerald flames. "Who are you?" Thistle stammered, his voice barely a whisper, his courage faltering in the face of the unknown. The figure chuckled, a dry, rustling sound like dead leaves skittering across cobblestones, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. "This realm has many names, little elf," the figure intoned, its voice a blend of authority and mystery. "But you may call it the 13th floor," it continued, as if the name itself held a power that transcended time and space. "And I am a collector," it declared, the title hanging in the air like a dark omen. Thistle took a step back, fear prickling at the edges of his courage, his mind racing with questions and doubts. The collector's words echoed the whispered rules of the elevator. The 13th floor, a place shrouded in mystery and legend, a place that both existed and didn't. A paradox of reality and illusion where the boundaries of the known world blurred, a place where desires were granted for a price, where the line between wish and curse was perilously thin. "What do you collect?" Thistle asked, his voice trembling slightly, the weight of the question pressing down on him. The collector's grin widened, revealing a glimpse of pointed teeth that glinted in the dim light, a predatory gleam in its eyes. "We collect that which is most precious, knowledge, memories, secrets." The figure listed each word dripping with significance. The collector paused, its eyes boring into Thistle's, "and magic," it added, the word hanging in the air like a dark promise. Thistle's blood ran cold. He instinctively clutched at his satchel where he kept the remnants of his dwindling magic, passed down through generations of his family, a legacy he was desperate to protect. He had a sinking feeling he had stumbled into something far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined, a place where the stakes were higher than he had ever dared to dream. The collector drifted closer, its robes swirling around it like storm clouds. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to deepen, as if the very essence of the room was being drawn into the collector's presence. Every soul that finds its way here seeks something. This place, the 13th floor, was a repository of forgotten dreams and lost hopes, a labyrinth of knowledge and secrets that had been long buried. "What is it you desire, little elf?" The collector's voice was a whisper, yet it echoed through the vast, shadowy library, reverberating off the ancient walls. Thistle swallowed hard, his throat suddenly dry. He had come so far, through dangers and trials, to reach this place. Now, standing before the collector, he felt the weight of his quest pressing down on him. "The lost lore of the ancients," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the pounding of his heart. The words felt heavy on his tongue, as if speaking them aloud made his quest all the more real. "Ah, knowledge," the collector breathed, its voice a low hiss. "A worthy pursuit, The spectral figure seemed to grow larger, its presence more imposing as it considered Thistle's request. But knowledge, like all things of value, comes at a price. The collector's eyes glinted with a cold, calculating light, as if it were measuring Thistle's worth. "Are you willing to pay it, little elf?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Thistle hesitated. He had known there would be a price. The journey had been fraught with peril, and he had prepared himself for this moment. But now, standing on the precipice of his goal, doubt gnawed at him. He had known there would be a price. The book had warned him. The ancient tome, filled with cryptic symbols and arcane knowledge, had hinted at the sacrifices required. The book had warned him. Its pages had whispered of the dangers and the costs. But Thistle had been determined. He had thought himself ready, but now, faced with the reality of the collector's presence, he felt a tremor of doubt. The collector's gaze was piercing, as if it could see into the very depths of his soul. Was he willing to sacrifice what little magic he had left for the knowledge he craved? The magic that had been his gift, his heritage, was now the price he had to pay. Before Thistle could answer, a sound echoed through the seemingly endless library. It was a sound that seemed out of place in this dark and foreboding place. It was a child's giggle, innocent and carefree, completely at odds with the oppressive atmosphere of the 13th floor. The sound was like a ray of sunlight, piercing through the gloom. The collector stiffened, its attention momentarily drawn away from Thistle. The giggle seemed to irritate the spectral figure, as if it were an unwelcome intrusion. A low growl rumbled deep within its chest. The collector's form seemed to ripple with anger, its robes billowing like a stormy sea. "An unexpected guest," it hissed, its voice laced with venom. The collector's eyes narrowed, and its focus shifted away from Thistle. Thistle seized the opportunity. His heart pounded in his chest as he realized this might be his only chance to escape. He turned and ran, weaving through the towering bookshelves, his satchel bouncing against his back. The library seemed to stretch on forever, a maze of knowledge and shadows. He could hear the collector's enraged hiss echoing behind him, its heavy footsteps pounding in pursuit. The sound spurred him on, fear giving wings to his feet. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to get away. The library was a labyrinth, and every turn seemed to lead him deeper into its depths. He had stumbled into a nest of predators, and he was woefully outmatched. The shadows seemed to come alive, dark figures closing in on him from all sides. His only hope lay in finding the source of that innocent laughter, a beacon of light in this dark and dangerous place. The sound was his guide, leading him through the darkness. Thistle's breath came in ragged gasps as he pushed himself to keep running. The laughter grew louder, more distinct, and he felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, he could find a way out of this nightmare. With every step he drew closer to the light, the laughter guiding him like a lifeline. The collector's presence loomed behind him, but Thistle's determination burned brighter. He would not be caught. Not now, not when he was so close to freedom.